Hey, Jan, you right?
All right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
Yeah.
Recovering from this morning. Oh, it's like those press ups. It was just like after there was the tempered press ups the other day, which I was really pleased I managed to get all the way through without having to go on my knees or anything like that. It's just
Good,
like
man.
destroyed my shoulders, and this morning it was like 30 seconds just seemed like the world.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. Hi, Jamie.
Morning, Dave. You all right, sweetheart?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that doesn't sound too positive.
I'll have a nap later.
Oh,
No,
get
it's all
on.
good. It's all going all right.
Love a nap.
Hey.
Hey, B.
Hey, Pete. Hey, look, chocolate protein
Yeah.
shake.
I
Which one are you on?
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Love it. You
I
guys,
have it like every morning. It's so nice.
guys like sharing everything, nailing it. Wicked. Oh, give everyone a couple more minutes. I think we've got one more person joining, and maybe P-Dog if he's not busy. I don't know.
Look what I'm making. Sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, B. Love it. You're making me hungry now, B.
You're welcome.
Ah. Give it a minute. I don't know if you guys know, I don't know if you guys use it, but if you're on a laptop or a computer, but if you use the Zoom app, there's an update for it and it needs to be done before the end of tomorrow, apparently. Otherwise, when you try and join a call, it'll force you to update it.
Right.
Okay.
Is that only if it's on a phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It's just so that I thought I'd let everyone know so that no one tries to join like a 6:30 sweat and then has to try and download an app and takes them a while.
I mean,
Is that on phone or on the laptop?
It'll be on the phone.
Oh, okay.
and thank you for the 15 emails from my coach this morning.
Oh God, don't. I have no idea what's going on with my coach. It's killing me.
Yeah.
I messaged the guys like 3 or 4 times because I'll log in and it'll say I've got no messages, and then I get an email that says you've got messages, check, and they're like, oh, we've done some maintenance. Oh, it's all over the place.
Yeah, I thought I'm suddenly very popular.
Yeah. Morning, guys. I missed you all. I'm messaging you as much as I can.
Exactly.
It's just students from one of the various schools. And your sons have not been doing their homework at all. We haven't seen your sons online.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Oh dear.
not what you want.
No.
I'll beat them later.
Off camera, of course.
Yeah, I won't film it. It won't be on Instagram, Jenny.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. There's Karen PT's in as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Morning, PT.
Hi, you're right.
Good. How are you?
Oh my god, I just woke up.
Wow. Late night PT.
I did work till 2 a.m. though.
Oh, okay.
That's an excuse. And I had a terrible nightmare. I mean, like weird dreams, unrealistic dreams.
Oh.
So I got a headache because I was really tense
Yeah.
and now I'm dehydrated.
Did you have a
So
couple?
just in time for that. Oh.
Right. We will look to make a little start. Karen's in anyway, so we'll make a start. Can't see her, but she's in. We'll trust it's her.
I know, I'm getting changed, sorry. I
Wow.
didn't think anyone needed to see that.
We're becoming a very close little group here. All right, guys. We'll get started. So yesterday, unfortunately, I tried to download what we'd spoken about, and somehow the file had got corrupted, so I haven't been able to upload it, unfortunately. But we kind of covered off quite a lot around the initial parts of digestion, so your mouth and how that all works and everything else around that. So today, because obviously when we talk about digestion, we talk about the whole gut system. we're talking about your mouth, your nose, going all the way through down your esophagus into your stomach, your intestines, your pancreas, and your liver, and all of that. So today we're going to have a little bit of a chat about kind of what happens with the stomach. It's pretty interesting. If you get bored, that's cool, guys. You can switch off. I totally get it. But there's a few things around the stomach that are really, really important to remember. So when we start with food, we mentioned a lot about taste and smell yesterday. They are really the kickoff process for how we digest food. A couple of things that we probably should talk about is, anyone ever had like gum disease or bad gums and struggled with their gums? Because it's not always a sign that it's your teeth, believe it or not. It's actually can be related to quite a few things. So diabetes is one of them, form of diabetes. Also, if you suffer from acid reflux, so if you get like heartburn and acid reflux, that's normally quite a key sign. But also any kind of irritable bowel diseases. If you consistently find that you're getting forms of like gum disease or stuff, that can actually be linked quite closely to it. So the whole jaw setup is really important. But when we go into the stomach, obviously the jaw mashes up the food, because I'm not too sure about you guys, but I couldn't swallow it whole and hope that it would make it down my esophagus. But some interesting facts for you. Your stomach is anything from 1/4 of a litre to 1.7 litres. That's the size it can expand to. So it can expand quite big and it can hold a lot. So, you know, when we say like eating, like having something to drink before you eat, that's why, because it helps with the expansion of the stomach. So the stomach's pretty, it does some unique things. It doesn't really absorb anything. What it does absorb, it probably isn't necessarily the best. It will absorb some vitamins into the body. So this is kind of your instant absorbing of stuff. What it is really good at is absorbing alcohol. So the stomach, alcohol is not absorbed by any of your other organs, but the stomach is what absorbs the alcohol content into your bloodstream, right? And the other thing that it can absorb is some short chain fatty acids. So some fats will be absorbed by the stomach. Apart from that, its pure purpose is to churn your food down to enable to pass it through the body. So it does that through a variety of ways, but does everyone's aware that their stomach acid is pretty much hydrochloric acid, right? So it's pretty potent stuff. You wouldn't want to be sticking your fingers in it or anything. So the stomach linings are, the stomach lining is really, really strong, obviously, because you have that hydrochloric acid in it. When you eat, depending on how much you eat, when the stomach begins to empty out into your intestines, it can take anything from 1 to 4 hours. It releases like a milliliter at a time. So depending on how much you've eaten and what you've eaten will depend how long it takes your stomach to empty out. Just to give you a context that if you do ever suffer from like acid reflux, two of the main causes for it are if you eat and then lie down. So like that's why they say don't eat before you go to bed, because it doesn't give your stomach time to settle and pass the food through, because obviously an hour to 4 hours is quite a long time. So eating lying down actually sort of encourages that acid reflux and that heartburn sensation. Eating when you're stressed as well, because the stomach's not going to function properly. A couple of others as well, fatty foods. So if you suffer a lot from acid reflux, I don't know if any of you guys do, fatty foods are quite a big culprit for it. So if you have quite a high fat diet, you are more likely to suffer from it. And things like, I was quite disappointed when I read this, coffee can be so everyone's face then was like, oh my god. Coffee can be quite closely associated with acid reflux, as well as chocolate. Oh, not such a shocker, right? Oh, B's not very happy though.
A few weeks back it would have been,
yeah, same give me a
chocolate in my things.
Okay, so chocolate, it's only if you really suffer from it. If you find that you're getting it more, these are likely culprits. Citrusy fruit as well can be a big cause for it, and things like peppermint, alcohol, and tomatoes as well. So I don't know why tomatoes stick out, but tomatoes are one of them too. So if you ever do suffer from it, those are the kind of things. Just think about what you've eaten for the day, and you'll see whether or not it could be any of those. Does that make sense? Cool. So as I said, when your stomach starts to release the foods, it actually has a prioritization of how it absorbs nutrients. So the first one that it will go to is your carb source. So it becomes important when you look at what you're eating. So like Dave, we were talking about before where you were going from one workout to another one, not really eating anything in between. To get that energy boost, that's where you need the carbs, right? Because they're the first thing the body's going to try and absorb and use. So if you're kind of in a rush or you need that workout hit, that's where the carbs come in. So things like having a banana, all that kind of stuff. Bagel in Mark's case, bagels, it makes a difference as well. So that's more kind of getting into some intricate timings of nutrition, but it gives you an idea. If you're feeling like there's a little dip in your energy and you need more energy, like you're a quarter of a way through the shift, carbs are going to be what kind of saves you from that. The next thing that gets absorbed will be your proteins, obviously, super, super important. And the last thing that's absorbed is fats. So if you're on a high fat diet and a low carb diet, you're very likely to feel quite lethargic at first, unless your body gets used to it. And part of that is because your body is trying to process stuff it doesn't have, right? So it's a little bit backed up on what it's doing. Does that make sense to people? From the time you've eaten to the time your body's actually getting the nutrients is going to be anything from an hour to 4 hours. Obviously that depends on the meal size, what you've eaten, how much fiber's in it, all that kind of stuff, but anything from 1 to 4 hours. So if you've eaten a massive meal, don't expect that to have settled and left your stomach for a good 4 hours. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So we're going to talk, after it goes from the stomach, it goes into the small intestines. Not technically that small, in all fairness. So the small intestines, basically the small intestine is the main thing that absorbs all your nutrients, right? So the stomach's done its work, it's mashed it up, everything's coming through, and this is where it's going to pick up your nutrients. So it's got it, the stomach, the small intestines is lined with like a villi. They're like little finger type, tiny little things. It looks like velvet. These little things literally just sweep up all the nutrients as it's passing through your small intestines. It's made up of 3 parts. I will attempt to name them for you. I'm not very good at naming these things. So your first one is the duodenum, which is about 1.5 feet long. This absorbs most of your nutrients. It will pick up pretty much everything and anything it can. It's obviously going to be picking up the stuff the body needs first because it's a much shorter part of the intestine, right? So it's going to pick up those quick fire carb stuff, bits and pieces much quicker. Then your next one is it's the jejunum, I believe that's how it's pronounced, and that's can be up to 10 foot long. So your intestines are huge, right? And that's going to pick up everything else. And obviously it's a slow process. It's not like this is going to rush through. But if for any reason you suffer from things like diarrhea, IBS, Crohn's, things like that, it's normally that your villi aren't functioning properly. They're not absorbing the nutrients in the right way. That's where a lot of celiac disease is another great example of that. The body can't function because they're damaged and it can't pick up the nutrients it needs. Does anyone suffer from any of those kind of things? IBS?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Since chemo, chemo stripped me of a lot of goodness, and that's the thing that stayed. So I was given tablets. Obviously, when I abuse my body, I'm eating a load of rubbish. It's horrendous. Like, it's just by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my stomach is so bloated.
Yeah.
And I never had anything like this before. Or it's the early menopause. I don't know what it is, but because the doctors won't give you this sort of advice and information exactly what's happening. They just give you some tablets, and then I know if I'm eating well, then I don't struggle with it. So I took the tablets for about a week, and with the other medications I'm on, I don't now. And
so IBS is a great example of it. It's very, like, I suffer from Crohn's. It runs in the women in our family. It's kind of it's not hereditary, but it's very genetically linked. And it's a form of autoimmune. So IBS is very similar. It's not an autoimmune, but the body can't function the way it needs to, right? So it's struggling to pick up little things, and it's things like absorbing the right nutrients. which is why you see a lot of people with IBS who tend to be anemic as well, because they're not getting enough iron or they can't pick up iron. Like there's tons of little things like that happen, and it tends to be deficiencies. I mean, I'm not a medical nutritionist by any chance, but it tends to be deficiencies in the body for it. Then it will go on to the final part of your small intestines. So we're not even hit the large intestines yet, which is the ileum, which is 10 to 13 foot long. So you have like nearly 25 foot worth of just small intestines. Yeah. That's in your body somewhere. How it works, I honestly don't know how the body functions the way it does, because it's pretty phenomenal. That's going to pick up your vitamins and some of the salts that your body will need, like bile salts and stuff like that. It's really one of the most important parts of your gut, and that's your small intestines. The stomach will do so much just to help that flow through. So of course, if you suffer from acid reflux, your stomach's not working the right way, because it's basically the hole that closes for the stomach. It's just a sign of like some of that acid is kind of getting out, which is why you get the burning sensation. It feels like heartburn, your throat burns, that kind of stuff. So it's really important looking after the stomach and keeping it settled. And the stomach is ridiculously sensitive to stress. So we mentioned before about the different kind of neurological systems, or the PNS that looks after it. When you go into fight or flight, that's your stomach turning in knots. Your stomach's not going to function in the same way. So stress plays a massive part in it. The liver kind of kicks in at this point as well. So the liver plays a part. You may, like, the liver is, yes, it's an organ, but technically it's actually a gland. It's one of the biggest glands in the body. It's about the size of an American football, someone told me. So it's pretty big. Like, your organs are huge, believe it or not. And the liver starts to play that part where it starts to release in certain hormones and things like that to kickstart the process. But tomorrow is when we're going to talk about the liver, the pancreas, and the large intestines a little bit more. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone about the stomach, the small intestines, how they work, how they're tied together?
It does, but I think you would have benefited from Alana's favourite book. It's all about the body.
I love it.
We've been discussing. Her favourite bit is this, because it also goes on to show how the poo goes around.
Love it. I love it.
It literally was on the table as you were discussing it.
That's amazing. But yeah, so it's if you think about it, from eating, and then obviously once everything's gone through the body, there's over 25 foot of the small, well, there's over 20 foot that the food's got to bypass through your small intestines before it's even got to your large intestines. So the body has a lot of work to do to absorb those nutrients, which is why when we say kind of like you eat your processed foods, they always are higher in fat, and the body can't absorb that as well. That's where you tend to have quite a lot of the problems, which is why high fat diets do work for some people. I'm not dismissing them at all, but that's why we kind of say a balanced diet with healthy fats is much more important. Fats have quite a big kickoff in what happens with your digestion. Say goodbye to the bacon, Dave.
It's absolutely, that's absolutely killing me. It's yeah, it's a bit like smokers. Me and bacon and people smoking, it's just an addiction. You know what I mean? It's just, I've got to have my fix of bacon. You know.
Yeah, I think it's like everything though, right? It's in balance. So yeah, we want to make sure that the body functions to its prime. So when we talked about the stomach and how much it can expand, that doesn't mean push it to the point that it can expand to almost 2 liters, right? So things like being aware of how much you're eating, what's on your plate. So going through those portion sizes, here's my healthy fats, here's my carbs. That's what helps the body kind of function much better. And just generally helps everything flow better through the body, which is what you want, right? You want those nutrients, you want everything to flow through, and you want your carbs hit quick so that when you're working out, that's being used as your energy source. Obviously, when people have got weight they want to lose, that's slightly different. We do change it up a little bit, but again, the body's only going to burn fat where it needs to burn fat from. So it's not necessarily about cutting out carbs. They're not the devil. It's about cutting out the amount that you eat so that the body knows once it's used that energy source, it's got to go and find it from somewhere else. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mhm.
Yeah, totally.
Has everyone been finding getting the plates kind of weighed up and measured up a little bit? Doing the hand size?
Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah.
I think I prefer that than weighing everything out. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
like
just instant. Yeah.
yeah, like I used to be I used to be ridiculously obsessed about food because I wanted to be super skinny, almost crazy obsessive. Like my fitness pal had to match my calorie burn for the day, and if it didn't, I went on the rower. And I had a nutritionist. He was a great guy. He was real scientific, and I would be like, I'm hungry, and he's like, great, well, you can eat an apple and then you need to jump on the rower. But it's quite an unhealthy thing, which is why I kind of like to promote the hand portion thing, because one, you don't obsess over numbers. It's like, all right, cool, I've hit my protein, that's cool, I know that's roughly right. 20-30 calories here and there isn't going to make a difference, because some days you'll be under, some days you'll be over, right? And if you're not, then that's where we look at the portion sizing a little bit more and maybe cut out half of like a handful of carbs, or half a palm of protein, stuff like that. But it's much easier to visualize it, I think, than anything else. PT's very quiet today.
Did she go to sleep? Are you awake, PT?
I am just about. I'm awake. I'm in the shed. I had a bit of fresh air getting here.
I kind of thought for 1 minute she was just like put it on pause and it was just a screenshot for a minute there.
But yeah, I've lost a little bit more weight. I think it's this intermittent fasting, just eating between 12 and 8.
Yeah.
And because I'm just eating between 12 and 8, and it's been mega busy in work, I've stopped for lunch, not even for 12, it's about half 12, 1.
Yeah.
And then my mother is stopping all the Thai food. Well, a lot of it. So we had salad yesterday, last night. Had salad again, but with chicken, no ribs it was. And so even my carb sizes now, even though like my protein and the rest of it is quite larger than a pound size.
Yeah.
When I put rice in my plate, I just put a little bit really. And if I want to eat more, then I need more of the rest rather than eat the carbs.
No, that's kind of where you want to be going, right? You want to be able to look at what bits of it you enjoy and what bits of it you're going to get the most from. And I think being in lockdown is a great opportunity to be able to do that, right? You're not out and about, so there's no I'm on the road though, I've just popped to Marks and Spencer's, I'll just grab something off the shelf and I'll grab a sandwich. Obviously not everyone has the same luxury that all of us do, but being able to kind of be at home and go, right, what am I going to have for lunch? And I can actually open the fridge and go, all right, cool, I've got some leftover chicken, I'm going to chuck a bit of that on the plate, I'm going to get, like, you can actually build it a little bit better. And the cool thing is, I know no one wants lockdown to go on forever, but if it is extended again, that's even more time of building that habit. So then when it comes to going out and about again, you're just going to be picking stuff out of the fridge and chucking it in a container and knowing what you're doing straight off of the bat. And it's a really good way to kind of take some of the distractions out that make that nutritional change really difficult, because it is distractions, I think, more than anything that changes how nutrition works. It's that habit, right? So if you've got to pick the kids up from school and you've got up late, or they're running late, so you've not been able to have breakfast and you're out on the road, there's a lot of temptation to just grab stuff. We don't have that necessarily at the moment, which I think is a really cool thing. Like for me, I used to drive back from the gym, I'd stop at the Marks and Spencer's on the way to Basingstoke, the Shell garage, and there's Percy Pigs in there. I'm like, I'm gonna have some Percy Pigs today. Or like grabbing a can of Monster, like stuff like that. Like I haven't been able to do that, and it's made a massive difference in how much more water I'm drinking, which again is something I've never massively done. I'm very much more aware of my coffee intake at home. Right? So whereas when you're out and about, you're not necessarily aware because it's a cup, you chuck it away.
I go up with the coffee when I'm at home all day. You can feel where it takes your heart rate up and makes you a bit like, oh
yeah, hugely.
I never noticed that out and about. Never.
Yeah, exactly, because you're constantly on the go, right? Your mind doesn't think about it in the same way. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of take a step back, learn a little bit more about, well, hopefully learn a little bit more about how your body works, and also just look for signs. So things like acid reflux and, just generally, like if you get stomach cramps or you find that you're not feeling top notch between sessions or stuff like that, that's really, really important to do. And I think it's great that you guys are kind of embracing it and doing it, because I think if anything, if you learn like 1 or 2 little things at the end of this, that's wicked, right?
Oh, I'm learning so much. Fruit, Jenny, I'm overeating fruit. I know I am, and I know it's because I'm craving sugar.
Yep.
What was the portion sizes for?
So fruit would be, if you're going to eat fruit, it would be kind of like your fistful of carbs, if you're going to measure it in that way. I think fruit's a hard one. If you're craving sugar, it's quite a hard one, but it may be worth potentially putting a couple of more grains in your diet, Jamie, if you're not eating too many grains, because I don't know that it's necessarily a sugar craving. It's probably more a carb craving.
Yeah.
Just kind of disguised as a sugar craving, because that's what it tends to be, right? If I get said, if you said to me, I've got a sugar addiction, and I said, go eat a bag of sugar, you probably wouldn't, right? Mm-hmm. So I potentially look at just upping some carbs a little bit.
Okay.
Just see how it feels. Go for a day or 2 and see whether or not it curbs some of that craving for the fruit.
Okay.
I mean, it's not bad. Fruit's good, so it's not like.
I know, but you know, when you just got everything else balanced and you think, oh, I'm doing that again. And I go to work, so I've got my 3 containers and porridge, salad, and then my fruit.
Yeah.
And then my protein shake. So that does me for the day.
Mm.
But then last night, that emotional eating. I mean,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, all the skills that you're teaching, that relaxing, the stretching, everything I am doing. And it's stopping me binge eating. So I just have sort of 4 of the little, the table at work is still full, so just 4 of those little sweets, and I'm like, I said, it's done. I'm not going to punish myself. It's done, and I'm carry on with my.
And I think as well, it's the age-old thing, right? Don't worry about like, just be consistent. Whether or not you have a treat isn't the end of the world, so long as you can stay consistent. I read a study that for people that stayed consistent, anything from 50% of the time, they on average lost close to kind of 5 kilos in a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still a weight loss compared to those that went 100%, and over a space of a year, they'd go 100% and they completely fall off the wagon. And they actually only averaged 2 kilos loss for the year. So it's not necessarily, even 50% consistency is going to be better than that up, down, up, down, up, down, right? And it's just, you know, if you fancy a treat, have a treat. Don't stop yourself from doing it. Like Dave, if you really want the bacon sandwich, have it, right? Just try not to do it every single day. Yeah, and those are just little things to keep chipping away at.
I mean, yesterday when I went to one of my stations, somebody had donated a massive box of crisps, and I haven't had crisps for weeks, and I was like, I just couldn't resist. I could not resist them. There's no way on this earth I could resist them. And you know what you said about taking your time to savor it?
Yeah.
I wish I had. I hoovered this bag of crisps as if it didn't exist. So, you know, but hey ho.
I think as well though, it's like we mentioned, like cultural backgrounds play a big part in your taste and your relationship with food and how it works. So like, I'm a savory person. I don't like sweet. I like sweet stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like, I will eat a brownie here and there, but I will pick up a bag of crisps over a piece of cake, which makes it quite strange. But that also means that for me, my diet is extremely, extremely carb heavy. It's just slightly lower in fat compared to the cakes that I would eat, or the cookies, or all that kind of stuff. And it's just being aware of that, right? So if you know you've got a sweet tooth, finding that thing that's going to help curb that sweet tooth a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Anyone got any questions for me?
So if you're going to have a piece of fruit then, because obviously some fruit is sweeter than others.
Yep.
Which fruit is the best fruit to eat for less sugars, basically, and less carbs?
Honestly,
the banana would be really sweet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's no right or wrong answer in it. If you're going to do it, berries probably. Berries are also a little bit more bitter, though. They're not necessarily as sweet. But berries would be a much better option than your apple, your banana, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't sweat the small stuff when it comes to fruit. So just don't eat dried fruit, because that's ridiculously sweet and that's really sugar loaded.
I used to have those, or still do have those tea pigs. It's licorice with peppermint, and they are just the right hit of sweet because it tastes like those little Mintos, you know, the toffee mint sweets. Yeah, it's exactly the same as that, and that seems to do it for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's just finding that thing that works for you. Like for me, it's always going to be an apple with a bit of peanut butter. Like that's my go-to sweet tooth type thing. Like if I'm craving it, I will grab an apple and have a bit of peanut butter with it. It's not exactly the most exciting, but it works for me. I also associate the apple with the rower now though, so that's from previous nutritional stuff. But
Jen,
yeah,
if you're having two, because the last couple of days, maybe this one where I feel a bit slimmer, I've only had 2 meals a day because I've been busy with work.
Yeah.
And because I've been busy, I haven't really thought much about it.
Yeah.
Like, because if I wasn't working, I'd be like, between lunch and dinner, I'd be like craving something or really hungry.
Yep.
I should be having 3 meals, or shouldn't I?
Like PT, it's completely down to personal preference. So like I'm very similar to you. Like I do try and fast as much as I can, just because as soon as like an eating window's open, that's my excuse to just eat, and the bigger the window, the more I'm going to eat. It's just simple. For me, my brain works that way. If you're if you break your fast at 12 and you have something to eat and you're not hungry until like 6 o'clock, and that sees you through, so long as you're not starting to feel lethargic, you're not feeling ill or anything like that, 2 meals is fine, right? I wouldn't beat yourself. There's no perfect meal guide. Some people, it all depends on like the health of your stomach as well, right? If you can digest 2 full meals in that time frame and feel good, do it. If you find that you need to eat smaller meals but more often, obviously an 8-hour window is not going to work that well for you. But I would say go by how you feel. Like if you feel good on 2 meals, do it. You may find like after a little while, if you start to feel lethargic and stuff, you may want to chuck in a protein shake in the middle somewhere, you know, put a couple of snacks in and see how you go.
Right, I'm making protein balls later.
Yes, Pete.
I got my prunes ready to be all mashed up, and my homemade butter.
Are you doing a little pick along with Paul, or are you just cracking on?
Paul will not have the ingredients. I'm just cracking on. You might watch me though.
Oh, bless him.
So
cool. So tomorrow, guys, we'll have a little bit more of a talk about what the liver, the pancreas, and the large intestines do, and on Friday we'll be summing up the overall importance of gut health and kind of key takeaways for the week, things to think about and work on, and generally just summarize what we talked about. Hopefully it'll only be half an hour. It might be longer if people have got time. We'll see how everyone's feeling. But yeah, just have a little think about just generally what you're eating, how you're eating, and remember how long it takes the stomach to process that. So again, like just give yourself time to eat nice and slowly, enjoy the food. Unless it's really, really good, then hoover it up. But, you know, don't beat yourself up about it and try and balance out the plate a little bit more, yeah?
Yeah, brilliant.
Cool. All right, guys. I will let you guys go. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. All right. Take care, guys.
thank you.
No worries. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.